Hello friends, welcome to today's video. We are talking all things health, autoimmune disease, thyroid stuff, and just kind of a general update. I wasn't sure if there would be much interest in this topic / video, but ever since I came out with all of the stuff about me being diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I've just been getting consistent outpouring of support and questions and feedback about that stuff, and so many of you guys have been asking when I was going to do an update and talk about what has helped me and kind of where I'm at. So that is what today's video is. I do have notes on my phone because I wanted to make sure I answered all of the questions that you guys have been asking me. Before we jump into the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button to let me know that this is a topic that you are interested in. It does help out my channel and also helps me just know what videos you guys are enjoying and I should make more of. So really quickly, I want to preface this with a disclaimer. I am definitely not an expert on Hashis. Many of you guys are super overwhelmed with either your diagnosis or your symptoms and with all of the information out there, and I am too. So this is just what I have personally found to be helpful. This is what I've personally learned through my experience and independent research, but this is not medical advice. You should always consult with a doctor, and I will be giving some recommendations for what to look for in a doctor and someone that can help you more than I can, because as a lot of you guys know, going to just like a typical Western medicine doctor, a general practitioner, even an endocrinologist can be really frustrating, and they don't necessarily give you the answers that you're looking for. So just getting that out of the way, quick disclaimer, always consult with your doctor. This is not medical advice. However, a great place to start researching about Hashimoto's and the disease is thyroidpharmacist.com. That is by Dr. Isabella Wen. She's a super well-known leader in the field of Hashimoto's treatment and all of that stuff. She also wrote the book Hashimoto's Thyroiditis, Lifestyle Interventions for Finding and Treating the Root Cause. I've personally read a ton of her blog articles, I've read a lot of her book, and I've learned so much from her, but you should also definitely still seek professional help and not just try to like trial and error your way through your medical issues. I would definitely recommend against that, but it's definitely a good place to start and a good place to raise awareness to things that are going on within your body and things that could potentially help you. So with that out of the way, if you are wondering what Hashimoto's is, it is an autoimmune disease where essentially your body misidentifies your thyroid gland as like an invader and starts attacking your thyroid tissue. That can lead to all sorts of complications, and then eventually once your thyroid tissue is destroyed enough or has like taken enough damage, you typically will become hypothyroid, meaning that your body can't produce enough thyroid hormone. So unfortunately, many people won't even be diagnosed with Hashimoto's for like 10 years after the autoimmune attack begins, and that is simply because a lot of doctors don't do the proper tests. They test for something called thyroid stimulating hormone, but oftentimes your thyroid stimulating hormone can be normal, but you could have antibodies present, your like T3, T4, reverse T3, free T3, free T4, those can all be off, but your TSH can still be normal. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but basically it is this autoimmune disease that attacks the thyroid. It is commonly left undiagnosed until it is progressed to the point where your thyroid gland has received a lot of damage and it's been like years and years in the making. So Western medicine takes a very wait and see type of approach. A lot of doctors will just say your TSH is fine, so your thyroid is fine, and then if you are diagnosed with Hashimoto's, they'll usually just give you medication and not really focus on like addressing the autoimmunity. So that's kind of likened to if you have a bucket full of holes, giving medicine to a Hashimoto's person is like filling that bucket with more water instead of just plugging the holes. It's super important to try to find and address the root causes, but it can be really, really frustrating, confusing, and overwhelming to do so because there are so many different triggers. The common ones though are genetic predisposition, gut permeability. So if you have like leaky gut and things are getting through your gut lining and into your body, that's a big problem. And then also environmental toxins, different types of stress, and then there are all sorts of different like medical things like Epstein-Barr virus, which is the cause of mono. That's been a huge link to Hashimoto. So there are all these different triggers, but basically it just leads to your body attacking your own thyroid. So that's great. So the symptoms that I was experiencing before I got diagnosed were weight gain, depression and mood swings, brain fog / like the inability to focus. I was getting so frustrated because I could barely do my work because I would just stare like blankly at my computer and not be able to do anything. So that was one of the main things that like drove me to seek answers. I also had cold feet all the time. My face was super puffy, and amenorrhea, which means that you've lost your menstrual cycle. There was a period of about 3 years when the disease was probably active, but I didn't know it yet. And there were a bunch of other factors like being a college athlete, competition preps, and all of that stuff. But there was a period of about 3 years where I didn't get my cycle I got my cycle probably a total of like 5 times. So that's obviously a problem, and that was one of the other reasons that drove me to seek more answers, because I knew that there was some sort of hormonal imbalance. I didn't know that it was Hashimoto's when I started going to the doctor and stuff, but I did know that there was something hormonal going on. And another thing was my sex drive was nowhere to be found, like nowhere. So yeah, not sure if that's TMI. Other really common symptoms are constipation and digestive problems, hair thinning and falling out, dry, brittle nails and skin. I didn't experience those, thankfully, but those are very, very common symptoms as well. So I started seeking help because of mostly the amenorrhea and the weight gain and the fatigue, because I knew that those things were hormonal related, and hormones are so freaking important to take care of, especially as a woman. Our hormones are very delicate. Quick side note, I have been getting my period regularly for about 6 months or so that is awesome. At least I am on the right track to where my body feels comfortable having a cycle and everything, so that is great. However, it did take a lot of changes, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but I'm happy to report that. A lot of you guys have been asking me. I first went to a doctor who specializes in hormonal health and anti-aging, so I knew that he would be a little bit more progressive and open-minded than just like a general practitioner that I had been seeing back in Minnesota, and he did do the correct tests right away and did identify that I had Hashimoto's right away, so thankfully that was a good experience. But I had my thyroid hormones, I had my TSH tested a year or 2 previous, and nothing came up, and he just said, you're fine, you just need to like give it more time or whatever. So again, with that like wait and see mentality that a lot of conventional doctors have. So yeah. About receiving my diagnosis, again, I went to a doctor that specialized in hormonal health and anti-aging, and he tested me for TSH, which is like your total amount of thyroid stimulating hormone. He tested me for T3, T4, reverse T3, free T3, free T4, and then the 2 types of antibodies. So it's TPO and TG antibodies. And I did have elevated TPO antibodies. I can't remember for sure if I did have elevated TG antibodies, but the TPO was like what flagged the fact that I have Hashimoto's. So those antibodies just mean that your body is attacking the thyroid tissue, which is obviously no bueno. Another way to diagnose it is you can get a thyroid ultrasound. So if your gland is like inflamed and swollen, then obviously there's something wrong there, and that is a common way to diagnose it as well. I will go ahead and put the complete list of all the labs you should request in the description box, because that is probably the #1 question that I get about my diagnosis and how to identify Hashimoto's. So many of you guys have asked me what the symptoms are and how to test for it, so there you have it. I hope you don't have it too, but if you do, it's so much better to find out sooner rather than later. So back to my rant on Western medicine. Even though my doctor that diagnosed me initially is more like progressive as far as hormonal health and all that stuff, he still basically took the wait and see approach. He was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. All you have to do is take thyroid medication and you'll be fine. Like that was the only information he gave me. So of course, me being me, I did some digging like immediately after my appointment, and I found that there's so much stuff you can do to help with your symptoms, to try to find the root cause. And there are so many lifestyle interventions, so many supplements, just so much stuff out there that you can do to try to alleviate your symptoms. So if you just continued to take medication and didn't make any changes anywhere else, again, it would be like that leaking bucket, like adding water instead of plugging the hole. And actually a lot of people who are successful finding lifestyle changes and supplements and fixing their root cause are able to come off of their thyroid medication eventually. So I'm hopeful that I can be one of those people. There's no way to know for sure, but there actually is data that a large percentage, like I think it's over 20% of people, have seen thyroid regeneration after, you know, like putting the autoimmune aspect of Hashimoto's into remission. So it really doesn't make any sense to me that doctors are like, oh, just wait for your thyroid gland to destroy itself and then we'll be able to just keep you on medication for the rest of your life. Or they'll even advocate for you just like getting a thyroidectomy and having your thyroid taken out so they can better manage your thyroid hormone levels. And that just does not sit well with me. I would much rather fix what I already have than just like replacing it with hormones exogenously. Oh, and what they don't tell you about like just taking medication and not making any other changes is that your symptoms will probably still be there. Like you'll probably be more energetic and maybe you will lose some of your weight that you gained, but a lot of the other symptoms will probably still be there because you're not treating the cause. Like you're just putting a band-aid, but you're not addressing the cause. It makes no sense. Anyway, that is my rant again. This is probably just going to be an underlying rant about Western medicine because I've just had some good experiences, but very few. My first autoimmune disease, linear scleroderma, is a very rare autoimmune disease, and I was misdiagnosed and mistreated for that for multiple years by Western medicine doctors. And then I finally went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Obviously they are more conventional medicine, and they did finally diagnose me and treat me with immunosuppressant drugs for multiple years, basically like low-dose chemo medication, and that did put my disease into remission. But that was also with a lot of support from more holistic, like naturopathic medicine doctors as well. And I'm a huge believer in like supporting your body and allowing it to do what it can as far as healing goes on its own, and providing it with everything possible to assist in that process before going to like drugs, like medications and surgeries and all of that stuff. Of course, there are certain situations when like you should definitely be taking antibiotics, you should definitely have surgery, you should definitely have chemotherapy, whatever it might be, but I always believe that you should research your options and go with what makes the most sense and gives your body its best chance to heal. So the fact that you can regenerate your thyroid, the fact that you can treat the root cause and alleviate your symptoms and put it into remission, that's super hopeful and encouraging. And I mean, you want to believe that that's going to be you, but it's also very overwhelming because once you start digging and like looking at all of your options and things that could be causing it or triggering it or like exacerbating the problem, you get really overwhelmed because there are thousands of different like herbs and compounds and minerals and stuff that could help you, or they could really hurt you. And there are thousands of different like modalities of medicine that could help you or not. So it's a lot to process, it's a lot to learn about, and that's why I recommend researching it on your own, of course, so you're informed. But I also highly recommend that you go to someone that you trust, someone that has a lot of experience in this field and will address you as a whole person, not just like an endocrinologist who will only look at your hormones. And yeah, so like I said, I'm a huge advocate for functional medicine, holistic medicine, naturopathic medicine, integrative medicine, all of those fields that look at you as an entire person and take into account like your lifestyle, your stress, your nutrition, your exercise, your environment, like all of that stuff matters to your health. So in my opinion, whoever you're seeing as your healthcare provider should take all of those things into account. Makes sense, right? Typically, they will be way more effective at treating stuff like Hashimoto's that is super complex, has a bunch of layers to it, and things that you just can't figure out, like researching them on your own. actually, something that I found recently is that Dr. Isabella Wentz that I've been talking about has a whole list of recommended clinicians on her website. So I will actually link that in the description box for you guys, because she has a whole list of people in the United States by state of people that she recommends. So I found that super helpful because I've been trying to look on like Yelp and Google and stuff, and a lot of them are not on there. Like, I didn't recognize hardly any of the names for the awesome people. So highly recommend looking at that. The list is from like 2017, but obviously a lot of them are still practicing. So if you need someone like that, definitely check out that list. The downside, unfortunately, is that a lot of these more alternative clinicians are not covered by insurance, and that's really frustrating, and that's just because the healthcare system doesn't operate like that. Everywhere that is covered by insurance pretty much operates on a 15-minute appointment style structure, because that is what is lucrative for them. That is the only way that both the insurance company and the doctor can profit. So unfortunately, a lot of people that are best equipped to help with these issues are not covered by insurance, and they're really freaking expensive because, I mean, they deserve to be paid a lot. They're extremely smart. They are able to restore your health. So that is a huge investment that personally I'm willing to make, but it's a hard pill to swallow, so no pun intended. It's not profitable to have long appointments, it's not profitable to have very comprehensive exams, and that is why pretty much none of these practitioners are covered by insurance. I've been looking at people here in Austin, and it looks like the average introductory appointment cost is anywhere from like $400 to $500. So that is a tough pill to swallow, no pun intended. I'm still going to go and make that investment, but it just makes it very important to choose the right person right off the bat, and it's also just difficult to do that, especially when you already have health insurance and you're like, well, I have health insurance, it should help me become healthy again, but no. So that is 100% going to be out of pocket to me. I'm going to be going to a functional medicine practitioner sometime soon whenever they have availability. I think I've narrowed it down to like 2 to 3 people, and I just need to go with kind of, I guess, my gut as far as who is going to be the best fit for me. I'm also going to be going to an acupuncturist. I've never had acupuncture done, but I'm super open to it. Like I said, I'm really open to alternative modalities of healing just because I want to give my body its best chance at healing itself. And I think that but many different approaches can be synergistic and helpful. So I am going to seek out an acupuncturist. I think I found a great fit already. And yeah, the reason why I am seeking out more people is because I'm sick again. I don't feel great lately. I think that initially I did a lot of things right that did help my symptoms a lot, but now my body's kind of catching up to me again, and I didn't find the root cause. Like, there must be something else that's still triggering the autoimmune response and making me feel shitty. So basically, I've been experiencing more fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and mood swings and depression a little bit again. Not to the severity that I did before, but I definitely have been noticing those symptoms creeping back into my life. And that just sucks because I thought that I was doing a good job at managing it, but you know, I didn't find the root cause apparently. Apparently it's more complicated, and I need to keep looking. So that's just what I'm going to do. It is frustrating. I shed a few tears over it just because I want so badly to be healthy, and I also want so badly to be like a success story and give you guys hope that you can do it too. But you just have to keep looking until you figure it out. So that's what I'm gonna do. A big question that you guys have been asking is what I did do initially that made me feel better. So right away, I started doing my own research, and I also hired a nutritionist. I ended up adopting a strict gluten-free diet. If you are curious about why that helps, a quick Google search will give you way more information than I can explain in this video, but basically it has something to do with gut permeability and the molecular structure of gluten, and your thyroid and all of that stuff. So look up gluten-free with Hashimoto's, and I'm sure you will find tons of information on that. Another thing that I started doing was taking my stress management and self-care way more seriously. I'm the type of person that I love what I do, I love my job, and I will work all the time, every day, sun up to sundown if I can. And while even though I love my job, it is a source of stress, obviously. Like, working is usually going to be somewhat stressful, especially if you care about what you do. So, yeah, I've cut back a lot on how much I work. I spend a lot more time relaxing. I try my best to meditate more. I'm not great about it. I need to be better about it. But that was something that helped me so much when I was consistent with it. I also do like more reading, more going for walks, stuff like that. A lot of you guys are asking about how my fitness has changed, and a big thing is that I just demand less of my body. Like, I used to lift, I mean, back in the day I lifted like 7 days a week, which was dumb, but I used to lift like 5 to 6 days per week. Now I lift probably 4, and when I was really struggling with my Hashimoto's and trying to get it under control, I was lifting maybe 2 to 3 days per week. They were not super intense, super draining sessions, and then other than that, I was like walking and doing yoga, and that's it. And that's just because you need to reduce the stress on your body. Training hard is a stressor on your body, as well as stress, as well as dieting. Another thing that I did was pretty much completely cut out caffeine. The only times I've had caffeine since my diagnosis are really like on accident, or when I forgot to ask for decaf, or when someone like brought me a coffee and I had like half of it or something. But caffeine just kind of like further stresses out the body. Like, I feel like my adrenals are very sensitive at this point. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. I'm sure it's linked. So I just try to stay away from caffeine and get my energy through sleep and good nutrition. I eat a very healthy, minimally processed diet. I do still have things like Halo Top and like gluten-free bread and stuff on occasion, but I mostly eat like clean foods, and I hate labeling it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I've been making sure to give my body plenty of food and nutrients so that it is not in a chronically stressed state. So stress management, cutting out gluten. Dairy is oftentimes a big trigger for people as well. I personally haven't noticed feeling better when I have cut it out versus not. It's not always a trigger, but for some people it is. And then there are all of these different diets and ideas of things to cut out, whether it's nightshades or autoimmune paleo diet or the FODMAP diet, or just like there's so many different recommendations out there for supplements and foods and all of that stuff that I don't want to recommend anything to you guys, because again, everyone is individual, everyone has different triggers, everyone has different root causes. So again, that's why it's so important to search out, you know, someone who knows what they're doing, because you will literally make yourself crazy trying to sort out all the different information out there. So find someone that you trust, stick with them, and, you know, see if that helps you. That is my advice. I will be doing that. I will share with you guys what I find out, just because I know that you're curious. But again, it's not going to be like a one-size-fits-all solution. And yeah, I think I'm just reviewing my notes, but I think that's pretty much everything I meant to ramble about today. So yes, all of those changes have helped me a lot. However, I still have not fully kind of beaten this thing. I'm still looking for more answers, and I will be sure to keep you guys updated. In the meantime, I would love if you guys commented down below what has helped you with your Hashimoto's or various health issues, what has helped you manage your stress. If you don't have any like huge health issues, then I'm super happy for you. But if you have any ideas for stress management, self-care, stuff like that, I would love to hear them. And other than that, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. It does really help out my channel. It helps new people find our family. And also be sure to hit subscribe. I promise the next video will be much more fun and lighthearted, but this is just something that you guys have been asking about for so long, so I wanted to get this out there to you. And I think that's about it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.